All right. Well, you guys have begun phase one, hopefully, which is mostly wrapped around creating disciplines, um, fueling yourself with better sleep, hopefully 6 to 9 hours of quality sleep every night, stretching in the morning, uh, consuming an adequate amount of water each day, um, and then starting to calculate protein intake and creating like a protein minimum for each day. And so that's part of phase one, fueling yourself. Um, and then training. What I was encouraging people is uh, 3 20-minute strength training exercises per week. And just light to moderate exercises. You don't need to push it and hurt yourself, but just using a weight that will challenge you a little bit, learning rest periods between lifts, 60 to 90 seconds. Um, and then in phase one, the last thing I was encouraging is to see a doctor or an endocrinologist and get kind of a basic checkup, but asking a few specific questions about like your blood sugar levels. Are you insulin resistant, hypoglycemic, or pre-diabetic? Do you have any vitamin deficiencies, which you can get with a basic blood test panel? Do you have any food allergies or gut issues? Um, and so the first month was mostly geared towards that. Now, let me say, I would rather, if you have not yet, I'll say, mastered or created these disciplines in your life, it may not be best to move on to phase two until you start to feel comfortable in the disciplines of phase one. Because now we're going to start talking about adding some things and looking at your nutrition. But these are the most important things as far as long-term fat loss is just going to be the discipline of exercise and the discipline of taking in enough protein and getting enough sleep. So sleep, protein, exercise, specifically strength training in order to build muscle. That's going to be the kind of bare minimum for long-term fat loss. And so as we talk about phase two, maybe it's not time for you to start phase two if you haven't gone and seen a doctor and gotten some blood work or checked on your blood sugar levels or checked on food allergies or anything like that. Maybe it's not time to start phase two because a lot of your nutrition is going to revolve around the answers that you got from your doctor. And so maybe you're not ready to graduate to phase two. But if you are, this is what we're going to be working with. I'm going to share my screen um, to a sort of nutrition plan. Okay. So you guys should be able to see this. Um, will you just tell me in the chat if you can see the fat loss nutrition plan? Okay, thank you, Tori. So on the right side, you're going to see what we've already covered, which is in phase one. It has your basic principles for losing fat by building muscle, hitting your protein minimum, and you see the calculation there of how to get that number. So I used myself as an example. My goal was 200 pounds. I've actually moved that to 190, but around about 200 pounds is what I'm aiming for. And so times 0.6, my protein minimum is 120 grams of protein per day. Now, to find your calorie intake, we're going to start counting calories, or at least having a rough estimate of what we should be eating each day. Doesn't have to be perfect every day, but you should look to get in a slight caloric deficit. And the way that you can find that is at that bottom right, going to calculator.net/calorie-calculator. You type in your age, some of your height and weight, your level of activity, and then it will tell you what is your what's your baseline, like what's your maintenance calorie goal, and then it will tell you what is your goal if you're trying to lose weight. And now you'll see I am asking that you don't go to the extreme weight loss approach, which is like 2 pounds per week, because it's not sustainable. You will most days struggle to hit that goal, and then you'll swing back the pendulum the opposite direction when you have cravings or when you fail, and it'll just throw you out of the disciplines that you've created. And so I think 1 pound per week is pretty good, even half a pound per week. One of the fitness experts that I listen to talks about starting even just at maintenance calorie level. So for me, I think it's like 2,500 calories a day or something. Starting at maintenance and then working out and getting your protein goal. And if you're losing weight, then just stay at your maintenance calorie. Because what you don't want to create is like eating disorders, right? And that's the other danger of doing these extreme weight loss pursuits is on one side, it's probably going to be unsuccessful and you'll swing the pendulum. On the other, maybe it is successful and you become addicted to not eating enough calories because of an obsession with your weight. And so getting in a slight caloric deficit, the whole program is wrapped around long-term fat loss, right? That's what we're all signing up for. It's the healthiest way to approach this, long-term and how we put on muscle, long-term in losing fat. And so getting yourself to a slight caloric deficit. Actually, right now on my YouTube channel, I will link it in our Facebook group. I just made it go live at 7:15 this evening, but I show how I hit my caloric number every day. And I've got a pretty basic plan and I'm not starving myself and I feel full every day. So anyway, make sure to go to that website and I will I'd like to pull up for you guys an Excel spreadsheet because I have counted my calories and I'll show you what that looks like. All right. I'm going to stop sharing so I can move to the spreadsheet. Okay. And I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. So you'll see I've got um, a few, it cut off the very top few things, but that's the coffee I drink in the morning. And I add collagen powder, which has 18 grams of protein. Really good for your skin and your hair and all of that too, your nails. But that's where I'm getting some of my protein from. And so I know some of you here in the Zoom call have mentioned you've had a hard time getting your protein in. I just throw a scoop of that into my coffee. What is Swerve? Swerve is a sugar alternative. And yeah, it's got 0 calories, 0 protein, 0 grams of fiber. Um, but I use Swerve confectioner sugar because it mixes really well because it's so powdery, but it's just as sweet. And so 3 scoops of that in my coffee in the morning hits the spot. So, and then I use a little bit of plant cream and oat milk. I'm not against like cream or heavy cream or anything like that. I just don't do well with dairy, any cow products. So in my coffee, I'm getting 18 grams of protein from collagen powder. In my smoothie, which serves as my breakfast, I'm getting a scoop of pea protein powder, which is 24 grams per scoop. And then I'm getting 8 grams of protein from chia seeds that I put in there. I also eat sunflower seeds throughout the day. And then for lunch, I have a whole chicken breast. And this says chickpeas and green beans. Usually it's one veggie. So it might be a sweet potato, like half of a sweet potato, or maybe it's green beans, or maybe it's asparagus or Brussels sprouts. But I plan my meal around the protein, which is the chicken. And if I hit that, then for dinner, I either eat a whole chicken breast, depending on did I get all my protein in earlier. But here it's just a chicken cutlet, so half of a chicken breast. And you see my protein goal is 120 grams of protein. My dinner's pretty small. I do a small chicken breast, a little bit of Brussels sprouts, and I probably don't even do the sweet potatoes. So I'm going well over my protein goal each day with this philosophy. So these things, collagen powder and protein powder, are super helpful. Pea protein powder may not be best for you. Whey protein is pretty universally accepted, and it works really well for a lot of people's stomachs. So just not mine. And it's the most bioavailable, meaning your body can actually use the majority of the whey protein that it takes in, which is a huge deal. So that is this right side of our fat loss nutrition plan. Let's look at the left side. Okay, this is what's new for us. Do you have food allergies? I hope that you went and checked that out. If not, you should. Basically, avoid those foods. Simple. Some are like mild allergies, and you can have them like once, twice a week. Blueberries, I'm allowed to have every other day, as an example. Do you have vitamin deficiencies? If you do, try to balance that with your diet. If not, take supplements. So, like almost everyone is magnesium deficient. That is like a new thing in our world. And so it's best to take a magnesium supplement if you're having a hard time getting magnesium in your diet. Do you have insulin resistance? I would argue this is the biggest one out of all of what we're going to cover for weight loss. You might be trending towards diabetes. I was right on the edge of being type 2 diabetic. And instead of sugar giving me energy and being received by my cells and being converted into energy, instead it would send insulin into my belly. I would pee the sugar out, and I just gained a lot of weight. Even though I was having stomach problems, and so they put me on a brat diet, which is all carbs. And so I would eat carbs and I would gain weight. And so switch to sugar alternatives. I live by Swerve. Stevia is fine. Monk fruit, it's even better. And then eliminate other carbs or just minimize them. A trick is to eat, if you have carbs, just eat your protein first and then eat your carbs after. That will reduce the insulin spike in your body so that you're not having this like big spike and then energy crash, and it's not sending insulin into your belly, and which is then absorbed by the fat. Okay, so this is super important for you to find out if you have insulin resistance or not. So get that checked out if you haven't. And then something that's been really helpful for me is intermittent fasting. And what I put here is a basic 12-hour fast. You stop eating at 7 p.m. and then you start eating at 7 a.m. My mom would say to me growing up, nothing good happens after midnight. I would say nothing good is eaten after 7 p.m. Pretty simple, but you eat dinner and then you stop. Isn't that crazy? You stop after dinner and then you start again at 7 a.m. I drink tea or water, or you can have a cup of coffee in the morning before 7 a.m. and it continues your fast. But once you have a calorie, it ends your fast. But intermittent fasting is good for keeping inflammation down, controlling blood sugar levels, which helps, again, insulin resistance, and reducing your appetite. So if you just have this crazy appetite and sweet tooth, you need dessert every night, try intermittent fasting. You're going to feel hungry the first few nights that you do it. After 2 weeks, it's going to be totally fine. And your cravings are going to go way down, which is going to help when it comes to maintaining your calories. A note that I wrote here at the bottom, if you have high inflammation, your body will expend its energy fighting the inflammation, right? There's like essentially swelling in the body. Your body is going to be working towards bringing the swelling down, but it's going to, instead of fighting off illnesses, instead of helping your muscles recover, and so it's going to make absorbing nutrients and protein much more difficult. But that is that's some of the benefits of intermittent fasting is keeping your inflammation down. So all of these will contribute to keeping inflammation down, and it will help your body focus on absorbing protein and building muscle. So that is the gist of phase 2, is starting to count your calories. Building a spreadsheet, and I can send mine into the group so that you can kind of tweak it however you want. But the only other thing that I would say is then start looking at your exercise program and adding a higher variety of workouts, starting to push yourself, doing moderate workouts or things that are even a little bit more challenging. There's what in the fitness industry they call beginner gains. And it's that in your first year, your body will put on more muscle than you will for the rest of your life. You know, if you continue on in fitness, that first year is usually the most fruitful. And so capitalize on it by keeping inflammation down, keeping your protein goal high, and keeping your calorie count at a slight deficit, so that you're if you go too low, another thing is if you go too low with your calories, you'll have no energy. So I already have no energy. So getting in a huge caloric deficit is not helpful for me. So any questions about nutrition plan? You can put that in the chat if you've got questions about any of the things that we've covered, whether on my spreadsheet, my nutrition, things that I eat, or inflammation, or any of the things on this chart. You can throw that in the chat if you have questions. I'm currently drinking peppermint chamomile tea, which is herbal tea, and it's part of my bedtime routine. So I start winding down at 7:30 so I can fall asleep by 9:30. All right. Okay, what greens do you put in your smoothie? You'll have to watch the video. They're called super greens, but I link them in the description. Greens are pretty hard on my stomach. Like, I can't do broccoli. There's a lot of greens I can't do, but they're powdered form, and you do like a teaspoon of it. And that doesn't mean that I don't eat vegetables the rest of the day, but it's kind of a fail safe just to make sure that I get some greens in every day. And honestly, I don't taste it at all. Partially because I load my smoothies with cinnamon, which helps with insulin resistance, but also it masks some of the tastes in my smoothie that I don't like as much. Tori says, this is so helpful. Thank you. I feel like I'm not here yet, though, because my doctor's appointment is until April. Yeah. And you can start to like trend in this direction. And if you're aware of some foods that trigger you or whatever, or one thing that might be helpful is like going low carb while I wouldn't eliminate carbs completely unless you're told to by your doctor. But if you go low carb and then just see like how your body feels after months of being not having sugar or carbs, my body responds so much differently to them. Like, I used to eat a piece of bread and my heart would go crazy. And then I would crash. And now I could have a few pieces of bread and I don't get like an energy rush or anything, but I have no physical response to them because I let my body kind of take a break from trying to figure out what it should do with sugars and carbs. And now when I eat carbs, it's more open to receiving them and using them. So you can start to practice some of these things before you have your doctor's appointment. But I think even just sticking in phase one and then maybe touching on a few of these things is going to be really helpful. Any other questions? Well, I will post all of that in the Facebook group. And I will also post my new video showing you how I hit my protein goal while staying within my caloric window. And you guys let me know if you have any questions. All right. Thank you guys so much for spending some time with me on this Monday evening. And I will see you on Facebook.